Hi, welcome to Schaefer's. What's the most popular craft on the internet today? Acrylic pour painting. Because of that, we put together a nice little class for you to introduce you to it. All the supplies will be included and you'll be able to create 2 canvases just in class itself. So what I'd like to do is show you some examples of the paintings that I've done, just to give you an idea of how much they are and how they look. And the acrylic pour painting is not only fun, it's easy, and it's addictive. I can tell you that for sure. Anyway, the first thing you're going to want to do is pick out your canvas and prepare it. And what I've done with my canvas is just simply tape the back of it with painter's tape, and I've added some push pins because the push pins will help lift it up off the table as I'm pouring, so when the paint pours over it won't stick to the edge of the table like that. The paints that I'm using today are the Studio 71 and a combination of the ceramic coat and the crafter's acrylic. Just about any good acrylic paint's going to work. However, you do need to treat it a little bit. In most cases the paint's going to be too thick. A lot of artists have what they call their own formula for mixing for their paints, and in the class we'll talk about the one that works for me, and I'll give you some idea of what other formulas are out there. They call that the pouring medium. What I've used in mine is generally Elmer's glue, the Liquitex pouring medium, and there are other things in the store that we've used in this formula. What I'm using to help make the little cells that are in the paintings, I'm going to go ahead and use something they call coconut milk. It's very similar to silicone. Okay, I'm going to use coconut milk in mine instead of silicone. It's something that I have around the house to use on my hair. Instead of buying something new, this will work. I think it works very well. So I've chosen some colors of paint, and I've already pre-mixed most of them. And when I say pre-mixed, I mean I've put them in a jar, I've added some of my paint medium to them, and stirred them up, and if they were still too thick, which most of them were, I added some water. You want to make your paint so that it'll dribble a little bit, but not too much. It'll take a while getting used to that, but that's one of the things we'll talk about in the class. So I'm going to use some of the different colors that are here, and this is a good size canvas, so I'll use 2 cups to pour my paint on. First cup I've already done. I'll talk about the colors in a second. The second cup, I've added some of the dimethicone in the bottom of the glass, just for starters, and then I'm going to pour in some white. I'm using colors that are kind of sea-like, ocean-like, or whatever. I'm going to add some blue, maybe some brown, add a little more dimethicone, not too much. I'll add some sea foam, that in there. Add in another mixture of the sea foam and some green. Add a little more white. Oh yeah, and you will get messy, I promise. But that's the fun of it. Add some blue. Now notice when I pour it high up, it just seems to go down to the bottom. That's one of the neat things. It helps the paint go into different depths of your cup. And I'm going to use some turquoise. And some purple. And let's see, do I have anything left? I think I'll put some blue back in it. I want to put some more dimethicone in. Not a whole lot, but just a little bit. Some blue. And I'll top it off with a little bit of white. Another shot of the dimethicone. Wipe my hand hands off. And now I'm going to do a flip cup. These are called dirty pours. There's a lot of different methods out there, but this is probably the easiest to do. And I'm going to take my cup, one of my cups, hold my canvas upside down, and flip it over. I'm going to leave it there for a second. The other cup can't really do that, and since this cup's been sitting for a while, I'm going to stir my paint just a little bit. And when I say a little bit, I mean a little bit. And now this one I'm just going to flip upside down, and you can get an idea now of what it's going to look like. Let me move these out of the way. And just to make sure that I fill the canvas, I'm going to add a little bit of white to the outside corners. That'll help me pull paint over the edge of the corners. And now I will remember to put my gloves on. Ooh, can you see the pretty things happening to that paint already? And notice that the paint in the cup, because I put some methicone in the bottom, or dimethicone in the bottom, it's releasing itself from the top of the cup, so there's more to spread. My other glove on. Now I'm going to lift this one up and kind of push it around just a little bit as I lift it up. See the colors?
Becky, line 1, Becky, line 1.
Same thing with this one. Now I want to make sure the entire canvas is covered, so I'm going to tilt it, but before I tilt it, I'm going to use a torch. And I don't know about you, but it takes me 2 hands to get my torch started. There we go. And what this does is brings some of the air bubbles to the surface, brings some of the dimethicone to the surface, brings it up through the other colors. So that's what creates the cells, helps to create the cells. But see, when you go over an area, you see those little bubbles coming up? You don't want to do it to fry your paint, but just a little bit. And you can always come back and do more. Now I'm going to let it tilt to the edges. See how the paint is swirling? Ooh, I love these colors. And you just let it go over the edge of the painting and onto the paper. And by the way, what I'm using underneath is freezer paper. And the reason I like to use freezer paper is the paint itself will harden if you leave it alone on the freezer paper, and then you can peel it off like a shell. And you can use the paint skin as they call it, on jewelry or other things. And see the nice cells being created and how the color flows. That's my favorite part. I'm going to use the torch just for a second. Clumsy as I am. See if I can bring up some more little cells. And this paint, as you saw, was pretty thick, so it takes a good time to dry. It takes about 2.5 days to dry. And for the first 30 hours, you want to make sure it's level and untouched. After that, you don't want it to be too steep, but I'm going to actually pour off some of the additional paint. And if you like, you can draw designs in the paint. A lot of people like to do that. But basically, there it is. That's acrylic paint pouring in a nutshell. You can see how much fun it is to do, how fast it is to do. Preparation is probably the longest time taker, the preparing of the paints. But it's a lot of fun to put together, and you have a beautiful piece of art afterwards. So that's it in a nutshell. And I'd like to invite you to go to our SchaeferHobby.com website, take a look at the class schedules, and call to reserve a place for your spot in class. Thank you. Have a great day.